The good folks at Comics for Fun and Profit have been doing 2 episodes a week for quite some time now, and it's all thanks to, first of all, Jason, and second of all, our patrons who allow us to add the space on our server, broadcast more, store more, share more with you, the listeners. I'm envious of those of you who have unlimited storage and media server capabilities. We pay for ours here at the C4FAP. It ain't cheap. We thank you so much for those of you who go to patreon.com/comicsfunprofit and contribute at any level to say thanks, to say I want to be a part of your Slack channel conversations. I want to get exclusives. I want to get early access. I want to get ad-free access. I want to get swag. I want to get some free stuff. Whatever your reasoning is, we appreciate it at any level because it does make a difference. So from the bottom of Kyle and I and Jason's heart, thank you for contributing.
Aloha! This is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing artist, writer Jason Shawn Alexander. He is here to promote Blacula, Return of the King. Now, this original graphic novel was written by Rodney Barnes and art was done by Jason. And also, too, the chapter break art was done by Jason and also artist Scott Hampton. Now, this graphic novel is out in stores right now from Zombie Love Studios. Jason, welcome to Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. This is awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Listeners, I mean, I'm not going to go through Jason's history. It's everybody knows that Jason and Rodney, are doing incredible work on their series from Image Comics Philadelphia. Now, before we jump into the interview, I just want to give a few shout outs. I want to give a big shout out to Kross Gutierrez, that's Rodney's assistant, and Josh Gordon, Jason's assistant, for setting up this interview. And I also want to give a big shout out to Carlos. Carlos, thank you very much for giving me an advanced reading copy. Thank you very much. Jason, I'm going to add. Do you want to add anything to anything to what I just said about Josh and Carlos?
No, without them, nothing would get done. So it's always much appreciated.
Oh, thank you very much. Where can listeners follow you on social media?
YouTube and I have a YouTube channel, and Instagram are my biggest for visuals for mostly art and project related stuff.
Okay. Real quickly, off the cuff question, your YouTube channel. So I take it you show how you do your works and stuff like that. I mean, what can you just give us briefly, listeners, what you do on the YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is full of primarily, I think there might be a couple of interviews on there, but primarily it's all like art and process related. Mm-hmm. So tons of time lapses of both digital and traditional. I'm going step by step in a lot of new videos that I'm about to release and talking about the process as it's happening.
Yes.
But a lot of behind the scenes and process stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So, listeners, like I said, we're just going to jump right in. Blacula, Return of the King. Jason, I'm going to ask, can you give listeners, what is the story and the cult status of Blacula?
Rodney can do a way better job at this than I can.
Yeah.
I was introduced to Blacula in my 20s by a roommate who was all into 70s films and blaxploitation and all of that stuff. He also introduced me to all the Dolomite films and all of that. Mm-hmm. Blacula stood out. It had a different level of class to it. Even at the time it had a different level of class to it. It wasn't kitschy.
Yes.
It was but yeah, it escaped beyond a lot of those films because of that. I think it had a different level of, it was elevated on some level. Mm-hmm. And and I love that it's stuck around and maintained in pop culture and all of that. And this book takes place directly after the film. So I mean, I suggest absolutely going back and revisiting the movie.
Yes.
Because you also get to see what an absolute prick Dracula is.
Yes. Yes.
And so really this graphic novel that Rodney, he came to me with this story. He's like, look, this is simple, man. This is Blacula versus Dracula. This is revenge. I'm like, I'm in. And so not only does it deliver on that level of just fun horror, but Rodney can't help himself but to make characters that you care about, and that like underlying story of it. So it has that depth that you see in things like Philadelphia and all of that. And I think we not only bring back Blacula in a very strong visual pop culture sense, but he's added layers that didn't previously exist.
Yes. No, yes. I yes. And we'll talk a little bit about that because I've noticed it too. Now, Jason, forgive me. I'm just going to give listeners a little bit background of Blacula, because Blacula was that role was made legendary or cult status by the late great actor William Marshall. Now, he was a Shakespearean actor, and for most of us pop culture fans, we know him as Richard Daystrom from Star Trek, and also too later on in the 80s, he was known as in Pee-wee's Playhouse as the King of Cartoons, which is incredible.
Cartoon?
Yeah. And also too, listeners, if you guys get a chance, look on YouTube. And like Jason mentioned, that Blacula, it was for its time back in the 1970s, because I remember watching a little bit. It was on MGM channel a few months ago, and it still has that kind of a campiness to it, but I didn't realize that William Marshall added, like you said, it's a little bit different than the Dracula story. He added a little bit layers to it. And according to a 1991 interview, and you can find it on YouTube, is live from LA with Tanya Hart. Mr. Marshall, talked about that he really helped make the character a little bit more stand out. The producers came to him with with this idea, and then he goes, no, I want this to be an African prince, and I'm going to try to pronounce the prince's name that he wanted was Prince Mabawala.
Prince Mawalde.
Yes. Yeah. And he wanted this man to be a prince that was fighting for his nation to fight against slavery, and that was very interesting, for just to do that, put that in a horror film, to add that extra layer in it was.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was, the movie essentially starts off with a diplomatic mission. Like his goal is to receive money to help his people and to break them from slavery. And he has no idea that he just went into the dragon's mouth.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then like you said, actually, before I start getting into the story, is that I know Rodney introduced a couple characters in this story. Like, can you just give a little bit background if you can? It's like who is the character Tina in this story? Yeah.
We the non-vampires in the story are very strong, adept teenagers.
Yes.
They in a very short amount of time, we learned that these kids have been through it. And they are bonded together. So there's a group of kids that actually range from a teenager down to 9.
Yes.
That have bonded together, who have suffered losses from potentially Blacula. And then there's but the kind of more lead as a strong teen female,
Mm-hmm.
and she's really approaching it as more of a journalistic approach. So really, it's kind of like a young female teen Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Yes, that's
like, just checking this out, and so yeah, and so these are the people that lead us into
mm-hmm.
the horror that we encounter.
Because when I read the part where I see Tina and she's going, hey, I'm walking around, I see these tags of Blacula, and hey, this is Tina, I'm doing my live blog. And when I saw that, because I know Rodney wrote a short story for the Kolchak 50th anniversary. Yes. And I was like, oh my God, he's doing a female Kolchak.
Yes.
That was awesome. It was pretty cool.
Yes. And that's what makes that kind of storytelling good, because he's pulling, he's kind of pulling inspiration from really cool timeless sources,
yes.
and applying them to now. Like everything in Blacula, like if you love that era of horror and that everything about it, you're gonna love this. And he, made it new.
Yes. Yes, he did. He did, because up in a minute or so I'll get into, like you mentioned, that he added depth to this story. It's great. Also too, like the other characters that's in this, I don't want to call it a gang, I want to say it's a family unit. It's because there's Tina.
Yeah, it became a family in a matter of
yes
2 probably.
Like there's another character named Kross who's affected by the effects of Blacula, and also there's a young kid, I believe he's the 9-year-old Bob.
Yeah. You get to see these, like nobody is ever really a throwaway character when Rodney's writing a script, and so and that's where I love that you see even within this small unit of kids, and again it's one graphic novel, but in this small amount of time you see how most the kind of the main kids were both affected by what is currently happening, and both have completely different reactions than one might expect.
Yes.
How they deal with it, and so you always get this kind of human element in these stories, along with the viciousness and the violence.
Yes. And then now, when you're reading the script, and I'm going to ask, while you're drawing it, could you hear, when you're drawing Blacula, could you hear William's Marshall voice in your head when you're,
Absolutely. Like the whole thing with doing the art for this was, not only did I wanted to stretch my own wings and try to show off as much as I could with what I could do, but like we were the first ones to really bring Blacula into a spotlight again, and so like I don't ever really research a lot of the books, so like I just kind of dive in.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching the movies like over and over, and I wanted to, this one probably more than ever, I really wanted to like stay true and really do a classic strong thing that everyone knew and related to.
Yes.
But and still try to have that freedom to show like, this is what I can do with it now, if you don't mind.
Yes. Oh no, you did. And because I don't want to, I'm trying not to spoil it too much, but like how how you added basically where we see Blacula in the beginning pages, basically he has to go to someone to ask for his freedom, and I love that design. I love the design.
Oh, thank you.
So of who he goes to. It was so creepy. I'll just say it just gave me the heebie-jeebies. And whenever you did a close-up to that character, and that character is like, oh, Prince Mumble, oh yeah, well, no, no, hey, come back, come back next time and ask me again, ask me if you want your freedom. But because it shows it showed how he loved to toil with him,
Yeah.
with Blacula, and but it's just the creepiness of it.
Thank you. But I was thrilled that there were elements that I didn't have to have. Like, there's a certain level of reverence that anytime Blacula shows up, there's a strength to him, and I'm trying to get a certain thing across. But then I was really happy. Like, there's at least 3 other kind of vampire characters and another character that I find, and so those were really fun because then I got loose because there was nothing to live up to. Yeah. And so I had a really good time with kind of these lesser people and these other kinds of scenes. And creepy. These 2 guys that show up and to help Dracula. I think they're the worst people. Oh
yes, and one of them is it's clear how worse he is. Yes. And I wanted to ask you about when you drew Blacula, like you said, whenever he came on, it was always a little bit of a reverence there. The other thing I loved about it too is that you showed that he was a tortured soul. That he would kind of, when he was thinking about, I didn't want to become a vampire. And I just want my freedom. And you could see almost like the weight of his shoulders, kind of like in the beginning of the story. And I just love it.
I mean, and that's what the movies, like, just reading the script, I would have probably had a slightly different take. But in watching, and that's what really does go to his performance in that movie, because there was already a weight. He was there for he went to ask for funding to help free his people from slavery. He already, in his performance, had this weight of this person who has to save these people. And you see even in that time, he has this love for his wife.
Yeah.
2 things that Dracula took in one foul swoop. And seeing it done so well, I feel like, I often get to feel like a director when I'm making these comics. I'm like, I feel like getting to take and direct him, because he was already there. I'm like, oh, you're already. And so, but I had a point of reference. I'm like, oh wow, I understand this weight. I'm like, and so when he's down or wandering or whatever, I really, those are the scenes, because I love drawing viciousness. I love drawing vampire scenes. But again, with like Rodney and my storytelling connect with our love of emotional content. Like I'll enjoy slooping, brooding vampire scenes more than cutthroat any day.
And then also compared to Count Dracula in the story too, is that he I love it. There's some scenes where Count Dracula looks privileged. He's sitting in his throne with 3 beautiful women around him, and I believe I think I want to say it's the servant Reinfeld is like holding a goblet of blood to him, and he's just like, but it's so different from Blacula. It is.
Yes. But all of this is going to be different than what a lot of people have seen with this. Like, this is Dracula, as when we come to see Dracula, he's, for lack of a better phrase, he's kind of fallen on hard times. Like, he's living in a trailer out in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm like, it's you could say it's necessarily by choice, but that's how boring life has gotten for him.
Yes.
So it's he's for lack of, he's being tormented on some level for being immortal and whatever. If anything, this whole Blacula thing sparks an interest in him.
Yes.
And it's exciting. This is
I'm just gonna and then also too let me ask you this question before I start getting a little bit more into like this, what I love about the story is that, and this is again for listeners, there's no spoilers. I've already talked to Jason about it before we started recording. Um, you know, um, did Rodney ask you to include a specific scene in the story?
Oh, yes. They both share a love of Easter eggs and references and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done the same. We've done the same thing in Philadelphia throughout. Like
Oh, okay.
we've dropped little characters
Mm-hmm.
here in the background. We've definitely referenced a scene that was an homage to one of the scenes that we put in Blacula.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all and I love it because anytime that we talk about we talk about films that we love, like, oh, that one time, and like, oh, it should totally feel like this, and I'm like,
Yes.
great, that scared me as a child. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we both, if you, I mean, probably an early example is if you check out the first few issues of Philadelphia, you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice that two of the officers in the background look suspiciously like Scully and Mulder.
Oh my God.
So there's
Yeah.
there's those throughout.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look close enough, you might see someone that looks like Kolchak asking somebody a question.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, and you know, and listeners, what I love about the story is, yeah, and Jason has mentioned it throughout so far, is that it's really not a straight up horror story. It is a horror story, but there's many layers to it, and I love it. You know, we talk about, how Tina, Kross, and Bob, become like a like they become their own family unit. Also too, the other thing I also love about too is that, there's subtle references of, we've already talked about, of slavery. Basically, how Prince Mabu Walade became a slave to Dracula.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to he wants his freedom from this. And again, it's just subtle. It's really good, and it adds depth to the character. It really does. And I also love it too that the distinct, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say what it is, but also how Jason portrays Blacula and Dracula. You can see the difference between these two men, basically, or vampires, I should say. I'm gonna say, even though that this is a very dark, atmospheric horror story, it's still a story about hope.
Yeah.
It is.
It's kind of remarkable the way.
Yes, it is. It is.
Rodney has a way of getting across that, like, oh yeah, this is all horrible and things are horrible, but there's a chance.
Yeah. I'm just gonna, let's see. Do you want to give a shout out to the creative team that helped you on this, you and Rodney, on this book?
Oh my. This was creative team. I'm trying to think of exactly who.
Are you okay if I give out names and stuff, and you can just add stuff?
Yeah.
Like Marshall Dillon, your letterer.
Oh yeah. Jeez. My head's up my ass.
No.
No, yeah, all of the I lived with Blacula and making these pages so long, and the closest person to me is especially through Blacula was Nicole. Nicole Palmquist was my assistant and the publishing coordinator.
Oh, okay.
She's the one who kept me on deadline, kept me on task, kept me trying to get pages done.
Mm-hmm.
And she would coordinate with Marshall, who just did an absolutely stellar job with the And then when we finally got everything all nice and done, then our designer Mark Murphy came in and just put everything to such a beautiful way. So the packaging and the whole design of it is gorgeous.
Yes.
And we got Scott Hampton to come in and do the chapter breaks,
Yes.
which need like classic haunting watercolors, that we've kind of more in a traditional Dracula kind of a sense. I love that kind of Bram Stoker revive that the book itself has. And a couple actually shout outs to Kennedy, who was my model for Tina. I use reference models. They'll come and do photo shoots. And Ron Finley, who was the most stellar Blacula I could have ever asked for.
Nice.
He is a bit of a legend here in LA as well, and it was amazing that he came and he's like with Rodney's stories. I like in the layers that his scripts give.
Yes.
Using live models does the same for my art. It allows us a level of humanity and stuff that I wouldn't be able to just make up.
Yes.
And so when you really want to see like human whatever, the best thing to do is to get humans and to do what they and these guys made drawing this stuff even more exciting. So it was and Rodney did a pretty good job too.
Yes. I'm going to slowly wrap up talking about Blacula, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit some questions about Zombie Love Studios, if you don't mind. So, what was the most fun or exciting thing that you love working on this graphic novel?
On this one?
Yes.
I switched over to digital. It had so many things. So personally, I got to push my art more than I have in the past.
Okay.
The painted book, and I haven't gotten to do one of those in a very long time. And because of my inclusion in digital and all that stuff, it just allowed me to do more with the artwork and explore things and play with capes and play with pictures and horror. And so creatively for me, I got to really push myself and see what I was capable of. And career-wise, the fact that I got to do it on something as relevant and as amazing as Blacula, and that is such a good story. Like I'm just like all of the like subject matter and everything, and like even on the lowest day, you're like, wait, this is Blacula. And so then you kind of rev up and you start drawing again. And so both, like I got to creatively grow, and I got to really not only put my own stamp on it, but like feel like I got to elevate a really significant pop culture icon.
And Jason, I'm gonna say you did. The illustration, I can't call it art because the illustrations in the book are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're really.
Thank you. We're proud of it. I'm very proud of it. Like this, I'm excited for people to have it.
All right. I'm going to ask, will we see more of Blacula in the future?
Everything points to yes.
Okay.
Rodney doesn't ever want to leave one thing alone, and so he has a plan for, I believe, potentially, a trip, 3 parts.
That's
really
nice.
Things that are involved in those 3 parts are, believe it or not, I feel just as exciting as Blacula himself. So like, I mean, I give Rodney so much credit that each issue, like we're topping out issue 30 right now of Philadelphia. And there's not a single issue that is like the previous. Each issue changes, evolves, and pushes the book further. And that's what we got. And every time he does that with the scripts and stories and all that stuff. And I think we did it here, and it's
All right. Thank you very much for answering that question. All right. Zombie Love Studios. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You are the creative director for this new publishing company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So can I just ask you, like, can you tell us a little bit origin of how Zombie Love Studios came about? What stories are you guys going to focus on and so forth?
Zombie Love, I believe, came about as a lot of entrepreneurial things do, out of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
I think once Rodney and I started on Philadelphia, we were pretty quick to want to include Nita Hawes' Nightmare blog, and we had have an entire broad world around it, and going through certain processes with publishers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Just got tedious, even feel like for whatever reason it gets tedious. So basically, like anything else, you get tired of asking permission, and so Ronnie's like, I'm just going to make my own.
Yeah.
And this was the leap that he did. He's like, I've got these stories, and he would run the stories by me, and I'm like, these are incredible. These, and so the dream would have been, if you ask us, even in the same room, the dream would be that I could draw them all, and I just can't. So I agreed to be, essentially the supervisor to make sure that I could culminate the talent, and that would be the right for each book, so the company could launch with an identity. And it's been great. Each time he has a story and a script, I've been drawing comics professionally for 24 years. And so I'm like, oh, John Wayshak. Oh, I have these names that pop. I was like, this guy would be perfect. This guy would be perfect. And so luckily we've gotten the ones that I want, that I've wanted on. And they're they've been inching along last year as well. So this year, I think you're going to see at least 2, if not 3, maybe Blacula, other books, but it could be 3 other books. Absolutely gorgeous graphic novels. Story and art both have completely vibes. And I think, and it's great. I love, if I can't draw them, I still love producing books with Rodney.
Okay, cool. Are these gonna, like I said, there's, I think 1 or 2 more that's gonna come out this year. Is it gonna be graphic novels?
Yes.
Nice.
Both are graphic novels. One is a really dark, atmospheric ghost story that is, if either of these don't get nominated for awards, I'll be blown away. The other, I believe, it's either co-written or written with the rapper Exhibit, and it's this insane alien sci-fi story on the corner of Florence and Normandy, where the Watch. So they're both. I've been watching over these things for all last year and a little year before, and nobody has any idea. It's taken a minute, but everything that Rodney has started is, you guys are going to see it this year. You see Blacula, you're going to see Florence and Normandy, you're going to see Crownsville, all of these, and you're going to see Monarch through Image.
Okay.
And so all of these are Rodney visions, and they're incredible, and they're all this year. This is going to be, you're going to fill your libraries this year.
Okay. All right. I'm slowly wrapping things up. I got about 3 more questions. Do you have a favorite convention moment, whether as a fan or as a creator?
As a creator and a fan, years ago at a Dragon Con in Atlanta, I was setting out my portfolio, and then someone started flipping through my portfolio, and my thing was, I was almost flustered. I had a long drive, and I had just gotten there. I was like, give me a second.
Yes.
But as I stood up, it was Will Eisner had passed by, and he was flipping through my portfolio, and the man's first words, I swear to God, was, "This is great storytelling." And I was like, I can go home. I'm done. I'm like, and he was already my king. Like, and so I was blown away. And then he wound up giving me advice. He said, their characters are really great, but I was a McFarlane kid, so I had all these backgrounds. He's like, but your backgrounds distract. He goes, you should simplify your background so we can focus more on these faces. And he's like, have a great show. And I'm like, so it's when I got complimented and schooled by Will Eisner.
Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome.
That's my favorite con story.
Your next convention or store signing appearance from sometime in anytime in February or beyond?
This Saturday.
Oh, okay.
We are doing a signing at Earth 2 and Sherman Oaks for Blacula.
Okay.
Rodney and I, if you're in the Sherman Oaks, LA area, we'll be at 2 this Saturday.
Okay. All right. And then
if this comes out by then, if not.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Then they cut that out.
Okay, no, we'll leave it in. But like, do you have any convention appearances like in February or in March?
They start in March.
Okay.
And I believe that March may be Virginia, but we're going to be posting up on our sites and social media the list of shows.
Okay.
Because we're the Blacula tour a little bit.
Oh, that's going to be nice. Now, Jason, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm just going to ask you this. Have you and your family been to Hawaii?
I don't have a simple answer for anything. Yes and no. Just me. I went a few years. I went when I first started on Spawn, and I went to the Amazing Con.
Yes,
and so I did an original cover for the Spawn issue 276, I believe, that I did. So, but the thing is my family was going to go, like everybody else, we were going to make a trip of it.
Yes.
And then my wife, who's an actor, booked a gig, and so they had to pay back.
Yeah.
And I'm a weirdo, so I was like, well, I'll wait for our trip together. So I literally spent my time in Hawaii just going from the convention center to the hotel.
Yes.
Because we will come back for an actual trip.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
So unfortunately, I've been to Hawaii, but I didn't really get to see Hawaii.
No, I know what you're saying. You gotta forgive me because I remember because I could have sworn when I saw your name, I'm going, I think he's been here at the Amazing Comic Con. Because I remember going through the aisles going, oh yeah, I gotta remember. I'm sorry, this sounds weird, but I was going, I gotta stop by your table. I just never did. Oh.
I was really fun at that point,
Yes.
So I was started to kind of reintroduce some stuff. So, but it was an amazing show.
All right. Finally, last question. Any closing words to our listeners?
Between the work Rodney and I are doing, and I'm relaunching my own series, Empty Zone, this year through Image.
Yes.
And it's horror dystopian cyberpunk, but he and I both are making probably the most comics we've ever made this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really want to say thank you for support and buying books and loving the books. That's what we hope for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I just want to say thanks to everybody.
Jason, mahalo. Thank you in Hawaiian. Thank you very much for your time. Just thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview. Thank you very much.
This was fun. This was great.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I wish you all the success with Blacula, Return of the King. If you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out Blacula, Return of the King. It's an original graphic novel from Zombie Love Studios. Now, this graphic novel is out in stores right now. It's what I love about the story, it reintroduces Blacula to a new audience. This story, This story is beautifully illustrated, by Jason's work. It's the art is amazing. The art. So I know we can't. I know this is an audio podcast, but Jason just held up the. Yes, he held up the cover to it. But also to what I love about this too is Jason has mentioned that, that there's a lot of character depth to this story. You're going to be caring for some of these characters, and it's very good. It really is. I want to give a big mahalo to. Actually, I also want to give a big mahalo to Carlos and Josh for help setting up this interview. Thank you very much, guys. I want to give a big mahalo to Drew, the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for all his hard work behind the scenes and putting this episode together. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
As you know, our LCS is Cowabunga Comics, Lake Country, Wisconsin's best pop culture destination for new comics, back issues, gaming, retro video games, vinyl, and figures. Give them a call, 262-569-9999. Check them out online at cowabungacomics.com or follow them on Twitter at Incredicow. They are our LCS, and we utilize their deep discount mail order service to bring Oconomowoc, Wisconsin closer to us. They'll take care of you. Tell them Drew and Kyle sent you. Say hi to Eric and James from us. If you need an LCS, you can't go wrong with Cowabunga Comics.